when you talk about the importance of musicals, the reason that I even wanted to be in this business was because my mom would sit me in front of the TV. It would come on once a year, West Side Story on Thanksgiving, I remember. And I was just mesmerized, and I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And that was always my goal. And this is the first time that I actually got to do it.
The first day of film school, Chris Stubbs 190, Dr. Drew Casper showed us Singing in the Rain. And he did it every semester whenever he did 190. And I remember even after I graduated, I would go back to that Wednesday class just to watch it one more time. Seeing Gene Kelly and all those beautiful stars, telling those stories I always dreamed of being in a movie musical. And so here we are.
Most important scene in the movie is the scene after Valentina and Melina make love the first time. And Melina's describing that he wasn't a man or a woman, he was nothing and everything. You know, that they both just seen into each other's soul and found love there. And that still seems like the most revolutionary idea and the sort of thing to grab onto.
I think the thing about the movie that I love the most is that it tells of the importance of storytelling and how it can help you get through the day, and how it helps all of us. Films help all of us kind of get through the hardest times in our lives, just like music. That's why movies are so important, and the importance of love. The importance of love and just seeing each other as human beings, and how love can kind of, shorten the gap of any divide between people.
One spirit got to show the entire spectrum, from feminine to masculine and everything in between. And I think what I took away from it was, no one can tell you who you are, you get to decide that. Gender is simply a construct, and it is something that we play with and have fun with and get to explore. And in a time that people tell us that things are inherently binary, in a time where violence out of that binary exists, I hope that people find solace and know that they are not alone.
It's a very autobiographical film of Sophie's, and it's about a filmmaker. And so you get to learn a little bit about how she makes films. I can tell you the preparation for this film was like nothing I've ever been through. A completely wonderful and beautiful experience. I feel like I should describe some of the things she had us do. In that beautiful scene between her and her class in London, you do realize she was teaching directors how to deal with actors. Well, she was a director dealing with us actors in the most beautiful way. I'll give you a couple of examples. We had great, huge pieces of paper, brown paper, spread out on the floor, and we would take turns with a felt pen making the outline of each other's bodies and marking every distinctive feature of that body, including scars and interesting beauty marks and port wine stains and moles, and we would sign them, and she would put them up on the walls. Well, that's one of the things. And then we would talk about them and tell each other our histories through what we had just drawn. We would draw each other. We would pair off and draw each other sometimes without looking at the page. And we would come up with these extraordinary scrawls. It was as if she was intent on turning us into intimate friends.
It was this lovely big part of the Mason Hyde family who welcomed me, and being part of this wider queer community as well. Everyone involved in the film was so full of love and so full of kindness. Whatever journeys they'd all been on, they would welcome people into their community. And I had the loveliest, friendliest time.
Different dynamics, and the more, at times more tender and at times less, and it changed and it evolved over time.
Two things. She would write little assignments for us, like very, very early on. She gave me, for example, make a plan in Amsterdam and take Kate Box to it. And so I took her off to a Sunday morning concert at the Concertgebouw, which was, it was my way of getting to know Kate as dictated by Sophie. You are going to have a close relationship with this person before you start acting with her. And boy, was it ever an extraordinary experience. Without knowing it, we saw something phenomenal. We saw this great German-French horn player come out and play Haydn horn concerto with his toes. A man who was born with no arms. Look him up on Google. He's a great virtuoso. We watched that Sunday morning at 11. Nobody had prepared us. We burst into tears. We had the most intense experience together. The day after we had first met, she would simply write long little screeds on the day we would have an important scene. In my case, she wrote all about Jim. Just information, just pure information. Her recollections, her responses to him, little anecdotes. And I have now this extraordinary little packet of notes from Sophie. That packet is going to be worth millions.
Will and I met in 2020, so we've been on this road together for quite some time. I've been a fan of his work. I saw all the Maze Runners in theaters. It was actually this YouTube series that our casting director cast called Weird City, if anyone's seen it. He's in a pilot episode. Oh yeah, big hit. I think I've always been impressed with his range, and I felt like this would be a very different role for him.
I opened this script and I just started reading it and I couldn't stop, and I was like, who wrote this? And saw that it was James, who was also at the time planned to direct, and so I was like, oh, let's see if he has a movie that I can watch, and he did, a full-length feature, and I watched it and just felt like straight up for anybody who is a fan. Yeah, and I was just kind of shouting from my rooftop, like, who is this guy? Because the movie, if you watch straight up, it's there's every element of a meticulous filmmaker. 4 or 5 years of more conversations while we tried to get this made, and that I think, yeah, we even just said it today, like, we're like, maybe that was good. That time went by, we just became friends, and we got to know each other and to understand each other, and I think that goes a long way, obviously, and yeah, that was the gist.
And then Aisling Franciosi was the biggest surprise to me. This was such a difficult role to cast because we needed somebody who had both an emotional maturity and depth, but also a guilelessness that I think sometimes is hard to find in actresses because this industry will weigh you down. But Aisling is such a bright light and incredibly intelligent, and when I met with her, I felt like she was in the talking, she was in Italy, and she just like cooked dinner and was like skiing with her family. I'm like, oh, she's so Marcy. She can do everything. Yeah, I hadn't seen any of her films in entirety prior because we rushed right into production right after the strikes.
That was the first time I've seen that final version. I saw a version after it was submitted to Sundance, and then that was the first for me. And it's quite a lot to watch yourself on a screen. And I have had some people from the film team who are incredible tell me it was brave to put so much of myself and my husband Clark and our family. It didn't feel brave to me. I think when you're in public service, you decide that you're going to put all of yourself out there. I think one of the gaps at the moment, though, is we don't see all of it when people are in leadership. And so this was an opportunity and a story. I think that these amazing storytellers and this amazing team, they took the opportunity to tell the whole story, all the highs and lows, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I hope it helps us humanize leadership. So, I grew up in a very small town in New Zealand, and it was a relatively conservative place. For me, the question isn't so much as one purely about politics, but it's about how we engage with one another, how we debate when we have different views, how we build respect and consensus when we need it. And that is what we have to also keep fighting for. We have to look for ways to foster that again, because all of those big challenges that we have in the world, we will not overcome unless we build consensus with one another rather than a war with one another. And so that is simply my observation. The situation and time is not unique to one country. It is not unique to one country. For some reason, we have managed to silo ourselves more deeply and in a more entrenched way than we ever have before. But I absolutely believe that we will find our way out of it again. And I believe it because I saw the most horrific times, the most dark and difficult times. And through it, those were the times when I saw beautiful lights of humanity as well. It is there. We just have to make sure we amplify it, we give it space, we foster it, and we have the courage to grow it as well. Any other nation's constitution that may be an impediment to support women or enable them to be representatives in their legislatures, all I can tell you is that the places that represent us need to look like the nations that they serve, and that means people at every stage in life, including childbearing stages. And that means supporting caregivers generally, because let's not assume that it's only a woman who wants to keep attachment to their child, but new fathers and new parents as well, we should normalise that access. So in New Zealand, we had a change in our practice that meant if you had a young child, your vote could count while you weren't on precinct, while you were caring for that child. And that, in my mind, is how we foster an environment where people from all walks of life can represent people in their constituencies, because who better to understand the pressures on young families?
I just literally, when we met, we immediately clicked. We just had a lot in common. And we know people who went through the criminal justice system. We have similar experiences in life. We spoke a lot, and, I was just truly honored that, he said that he'll love to be on board, and hence, here we are.
So, I read the script like most actors do, and I was sent the short film as well. And honestly, it had such a profound impact on me just watching that film. You could tell that the people behind it had a genuine love and care and attention to detail for what they were trying to do. And it told me a lot about Rashad before even getting to talk to him, in person. And so, for me, to have the honor, the ability to step into a role like this where, so often we see, the mugshots, if you will, but we never hear the story. We never hear how these people got in these situations. And so I felt for Ricky, being 15 years old, being put in this situation. It begged a lot of questions, Is this the way that we're supposed to be dealing with youth in the incarceration system? Did the punishment fit the crime? How are we taking care of these individuals after, they were released from prison? How are we helping them reacclimate to civilian life? And so, anytime you have a story like that can be entertaining, but also speak to the climate of the world we live in, I think it's a special opportunity. So I was just grateful that Rashad, casted me.
There's a lot to think about when it comes to impacts. for this, and I'm kind of curious how you think different audiences can receive this and what they can do, or what they should do.
Yeah, people who watch this could have empathy for an ex-offender who positively wants to reacclimate back into society.
When he went in, he was a boy. Now this world sees him as a man, and so it changes the way he goes about life. And it was very, very important to us that we were paying attention to the nuances of what that experience could be like. We had a lot of conversations, for instance, about the intimacy scene. You saw Ricky lose his virginity in this film, and there's one version of this is like playing an aggressive, sort of the one who's leading the way. Ricky could have done that, I think. But the other version, the less seldom seen version, was a guy who can't even fake that he hasn't even been in this position before. He can't hide it. And so I felt like it was important to bring truth to a moment like that, because it helps make the story so much more palpable for you guys.
Incredible team all came together to make a comedy that aims to teach you that sometimes the love you're missing most is the love you have for yourself. I hope you guys love this bloom. Please welcome up the director, James Griffin.
So this film was adapted from a short film we made 18 years ago, which is the same age as my children. And I feel equally nervous about letting them go into the world. So I truly hope you enjoy the film. It's been a hell of a journey to get here, but I always believe that the film is made the time you need to make it, and all the little pieces of the journey have got us here, with which I'm very, very grateful. Thank you all. Thank you for celebrating with us. I hope you enjoy the film.
you can really simplify complex feelings so quickly, and as we say in the film, men can be labeled assholes and women can be labeled crazy. And I think, Molly, I want you to speak to this, but I think we were excited to kind of lean into that trope of the crazy woman and poke fun at it.
Yeah, I mean, don't we all just want to force someone to have a conversation with us sometimes? And I think this is, if I was 5% crazier, what would we do? And how miscommunication can lead to sometimes a horror film. But being connected to people is really hard, and relationships are really hard, and dating is really hard, and you can feel really alone, and we just wanted to make something funny and make people feel seen, and I feel so lucky to be here. I want to thank Kim for having us, and I want to thank Sophie, my best friend, for making this movie, and I'm so proud of her.
To go to work and just have fun and goof around, and with these great actors was so much fun, and it was challenging for me. Yeah, I was limited in terms of my physical options, and that became a fun challenge for me, and I just enjoyed it. It was a great experience all around.
I mean, I think one of the special things about independent film is you have to be into the project because it's scrappy in moments, and I also think just we had such an incredible crew, and everyone was so game to work really hard, and everyone's a really kind person, and that does make for a good vibe in my experience on set. And yeah, I don't know, there's such good actors and so funny, and so many of the best lines in the movie are improvised, which is so exciting. Marlee and I both love Dolly Parton, so we always had that as our song for the dream sequence and the opening. And then the rest of the music, I made a playlist when we were pitching the film, and a lot of the songs in the film were from that playlist. But we also had an amazing music supervisor, Jillian Ennis, who did an incredible job making suggestions. So kind of a combo of things that I had in my mind from 4 years ago, and some great new ideas. Yeah.
In the years since, I've watched the way my mother has brought that land back to life and tended to it, and it's not the same as it was, and it never will be, but she loves it very dearly still, and cares for it, and works on it, and it will burn again as well. What's inspired me seeing the way that she's cared for that land and the gardens that are there now is the knowledge that the fact that it burned and the fact that it will, the pain of the past and the uncertainty of the future does not diminish, and in fact only fertilizes the present that is existing there. Build a home, found myself stuck between questions familiar in some form to all of us, whether it's fires or floods or anything more or less material, of what is this home going to look like and what can it be. This film was me trying to picture what a nice life could look like, and it wasn't one in which losses were avoided or erased as they cannot be, but instead it was one that decides if loss and destruction will be part of our lives, as they are and have been and will only increasingly be. Then let's hope that the strange and amazing things that follow in their wake, as they do every time, let's hope that that can only become more a part of our lives as well.
Speaking with Max and reading the script, and from the first page, like Josh said, he speaks from the heart, but you could feel it in every page, every word that he wrote in description of these characters and the landscape, and not focusing too much on the tragedy that happened, but exactly that, how do you rebuild, and these questions that we don't really explore when something happens, when we grieve, when we lose people, when we lose memories, and that's just part of life. But he has a beautiful way of articulating it in the script, and it was just captivating reading this. And my experience with it with this shoot was exactly what you saw on the big screen. Was very family, very community oriented, and it was just a reflection of exactly what we were the story we were trying to tell. It was just a beautiful collaboration. I mean, we had so many talks about what we thought this character, Mila, what her backstory is, and that's one of my favorite things to do is, explore the parts of these characters that maybe the audience won't know, but we know as, performers or as telling the story. And it was just a real beautiful time. And I mean, I can pull from every day that there was something that was just beautiful, but I will say there was not a bad sunset. I was taking out the phone every day. I mean, it was just a part of the day, or the sunrise was just a beautiful part. So it was just I'm really grateful to be part of this experience.
One of my probably favourite parts was when me and Lucy were running in the afternoon, running in the dust, I guess? Yeah. And I just remember getting there and going, remember the line, remember the line, remember the line. I only had to say one small line, but it was so hard to remember that one small line. So I also loved the storms and the sunsets. Everything about that place was so beautiful, and just such a beautiful movie.
It was very peaceful on set every day. And that was such a great environment to be in. I feel like when you're in a space that feels that calm and supportive, that's when like the good stuff happens. So I was very happy to be a part of it. And something that really struck me this time when we watched it this afternoon was this idea of you got what you got, which I just heard differently this time. I don't know why, but I just think that's so beautiful, that sentiment that Bess puts in her will that Ruby repeats at the funeral, and I think that that's kind of the whole spirit of it.
The loss, versus the choice you made, which is start with loss.
I suppose one of the things, and it's kind of alluded to in the first act, is that perhaps Dusty didn't have all that much time for community, for his family, and that maybe he wasn't even aware of that loss, what he was missing out on. And I suppose the thing that drew me to Max's script was that we're jumping in after the fact and watching someone rebuild their life, with community, with family, with his daughter. So in that sense, I think that from a character perspective, to see someone at the beginning of a journey, a snapshot, is all you really need. And actually, some of the things I really love about the experience of watching this film is really early on and seeing the little, as you mentioned, the kind of nod to what was before, the castle market and having to hand over things. And, for instance, like the scene when he goes to the bank and wants to rebuild his life as it was, and that rather than that being a devastating fact that he can't, it's an opportunity for something new. So I think starting it at that point has two benefits. One, is you can all go home earlier, get dinner. But also, the fundamental is that we watch him really at the beginning of this enclosed journey.
People have tried to define me as someone I knew I wasn't. I'm stubborn. I'm determined. And I'm always trying to prove these people wrong. Even though, you saw it here. Why stop? So, just like anybody else, I love doing what I do.
I don't think that you had a choice.
I don't have a choice.
No, you didn't have a choice. You had to keep going. That's what you told me.
Exactly.
Yeah.